Welcome to my office. I used to work in places like this as a mountain bike guide, leading clients from all over the world through Scotland's epic landscapes and amazing trails. It was a dream job, if I'm honest. Things changed a wee bit for me in 2007. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a mountain biker's worst nightmare. Mountain biking and MS don't get on too well. I can't guide anymore, but getting to these places is as important to me as ever, probably even more so. I'm a champion for the charity Overcoming MS, and like them, I want the world to know that MS isn't necessarily a death sentence. And sometimes I need to look at life through other people's eyes to find the extra insights and perspectives that I need to get me out of the holes that I sometimes find myself in.
Hello, boys. Let's go.
Are you well?
I'm pretty well, yeah.
Could you introduce yourself, Johnny? Tell us who you are.
Yep, so I am Johnny White. I am nearly 39 years old. I come from Belfast in Northern Ireland and now live on the spectacularly beautiful North Coast. Before MS, I worked as a doctor and I specialised in obstetrics and gynaecology. So obstetrics is looking after pregnant mums and gynaecology is women's health issues. At the end of July 2015, I was at a friend's wedding. As they were saying their vows at the end of a quay, looking out over this beautiful view, I bent my neck and it felt like I had about 15 mobile phones from my belly button to my toes. And throughout the rest of the meal and the ceilidh and the dancing and stuff later on, this just got worse and worse and worse. And like any Northern Irish male of a certain age, my response to that was, batter on, have another one, see how you go. And the next morning I was due to do a night shift and I woke up in her clamping pod and I said to my wife, my then fiance, something's not right here, Jenny, this is not good. And I took a night off work for the first time ever. I'd never had a day sick in my life. Went back in the Saturday, not really sure why, because it was exactly the same. Bent my neck to do a cesarean section and I thought, oh no, this is really bad. So the next day I went to my local emergency room and I said, I'm pretty sure I've got MS and I need an MRI scan. And they said, don't be stupid, you don't have MS, that's just you being a doctor and you'll have slipped a disc, it'll be sweet, don't worry, we'll come back in the morning, we'll get you your scan, you'll be fine. So I sat in the electromagnetic coffin for about 90 minutes and had my brain and my spine and got contrast and all the rest of it. And the medical registrar on call said, yeah, it looks like you've got MS. We're 3 months from our wedding and life changed big time in those 5 seconds.
I have recounted this in my head and had so many conversations about it over the years and probably would have cried every time I had the conversation until about 2 years ago. It's amazing how it just takes a while to process, and I think his symptoms were so typical, putting his neck forward and just sudden shock waves, I think, like shock waves and vibrations down both sides of his body. And I think there've been things going on in the background that he maybe added all up. So when this happened, because I think if he'd gone into A&E with these kind of symptoms, I think Joe Bloggs or somebody else in the public may not have got the MRI the next day, whereas I think because Johnny did have some insight, he was very lucky, because we all know that most people with MS, it does take months if not years for the vast majority. Thankfully that heightened emotion of diagnosis isn't quite as heightened anymore, because it's a big deal. Do you remember what happened back?
I'd got a phone call from the hospital to say that I think we've got your husband here. And Andy couldn't remember my name and he had to describe the building in order for them to figure out where I worked. So when I got this bizarre call at work from the hospital that my husband couldn't remember my name, he couldn't remember where I worked, now that was a real shock. And I think it took several years to actually get a proper diagnosis.
MS is the most common disabling neurological condition of young adults. There are, for your UK audience, about 160,000 people living with MS. There are 3 million people around the world, we think, but we don't really know, living with MS. Most people will be diagnosed between their 20s and their 40s, but some are younger, some are older. And 3 times as many women than men are diagnosed with MS. So we're special, Andy, rare and special creatures. And in simple terms, MS is your immune system incorrectly thinking that your myelin sheath, the little coating that coats many of the nerves in the brain and the spinal cord, is an enemy that needs to be attacked. And as it attacks and destroys and damages the myelin sheath, it then leads to the symptoms that we all know too well. Strange sensations in the arms or the legs, numbness, pins and needles, tingling, that sort of stuff. Speech problems, thinking problems, balance issues, bowel and bladder problems, and then gait disturbance, the mobility issues that people often associate with MS, but doesn't happen for everybody.
I mean, it is incredible how variable the days can be with MS. You know, good days are awesome, where Johnny wants to be out, our kids get up at like 5:30, so Johnny wants to be out like 7:30, kicking the football around, Mr. Chirpy Chirpy, drinking his coffee, happy as Larry. But then the next day he might come down feeling exhausted, and that might be because he's not a good sleeper, it might just be because MS has decided to misbehave that day.
Yeah, Andy's very much the same. So when he has those moments where he does get that cog fog, I've never heard of that expression before.
Okay.
I've heard of brain fog, but
Yeah.
not cog fog.
Yeah.
His memory and his expression of how to say things
Yeah.
can be really difficult. Sometimes what's added to that is slurred speech as well, and that's really scary, where it just lasts for about 30 minutes, where he can't even talk to me.
Yeah.
We can have a walk with the dog down to the park. Some days he just can't even make that walk. The irony of it is that you think that walking is easier, but for Andy, walking is more challenging than riding a bike. And that's another sign of his deterioration, is that the acceptance of using a walking stick.
Yeah.
You know, where is this going to take me? Like, am I going to be able to work again? Am I going to, you know, I still love biking. Am I going to be able to do that? What am I going to be like if we decide to have kids? Am I going to be able to function? How am I going to be a husband? Life was going this way. I was happy with that. I was like, I'm going to be a consultant. I'm going to do reproductive medicine. I'm going to do IVF, and it's going to be brilliant. And then it just went completely the other direction. It was like a trap door opened beneath me, and I just went whoomph through it, you know.
I think literally only weeks had passed, maybe even like 2 weeks, and in came the Overcoming MS handbook via the post. I think you read it from cover to cover within about, I don't know, 2-3 days of getting it. It's a good old size handbook with all the different components that OMS is made up of. I
found George Jelinek book. I read it in 72 hours from cover to cover. From the 1950s, there's Professor Roy Swank who did a very long-term study that was published in the Lancet to show that a low saturated fat, not low fat, low saturated fat diet could make a marked difference in the trajectory of, literally there's a graph showing people who followed the diet over time, people who did not, and that this is their functioning. As a doctor, as a person with MS, I thought this is it, this is the way I'm going. And I never looked back. If I didn't have MS tomorrow, I wouldn't change any of it. In simple terms, it is a whole food, plant-based diet with or without seafood. So it can be purely plant-based or vegan if you wish, but you can eat seafood and there may be an additional benefit to that. There's no meat, there's no dairy. We try to avoid processed oils. And we add in flax oil, so omega-3, which is a very anti-inflammatory polyunsaturated fatty acid that is brilliant for your brain. I take high-dose vitamin D as a key pillar. Actually, it'd be better to get sunlight, but where we live, Andy, we don't get any sunlight for at least 6 months, probably 11 and a half months of the year. I exercise pretty regularly. We advocate 3 to 5 times a week for half an hour. And it doesn't have to be exercise, physical activity. You know, anybody, no matter what their level of disability will nearly always be able to do something for their MS. And then I suppose one of the other things is the stress reduction meditation aspect. You can't remove stress from someone's life, but you can manage it. So we advocate meditation. Who shouldn't be eating better, moving more, managing their stress better? For me, it's an absolute no-brainer.
I can't believe that 8 years later, we're sitting here doing this video, because Johnny is such a massive part of overcoming MS. You know, he's been their medical advisor for quite a few years now. The journey that he's been on would have been a lot darker without the support of the steps that overcoming MS has taught us about, but also the people he's met along the way.
Here we go, Johnny. Here's your steed for the day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
Yeah, I've never seen one of these before.
say that again.
This is very different to what I do. Like,
You've never...
So I road bike, I've used hybrids, I've never been on a mountain bike, and I'm definitely sure I've never been on an e-bike either.
Wow.
So this is a whole new experience for me.
We've got the motor here,
Yep.
the battery's in here. This is where the magic happens.
Exercise is a disease-modifying therapy. It's as simple as that. It's like Miracle-Gro. It's like pouring Miracle-Gro onto plants. There are 2 proteins in the brain that increase as you exercise, both of which help your brain to create new connections, to get round the damaged bits and find another way to send that message through. It's called neuroplasticity, vital in MS. And it's just a joy to be outside for me.
How's that bike working out?
The e-bike is just absolutely class. It's let us do stuff today. There's no way I could have done as someone who's never ridden a mountain bike before.
Oh, absolutely.
Just no way.
It's still, I guess, a bit of a frustration of mine in some ways that it took me so many years. You know, it should be at the point of diagnosis, everyone that gets an MS diagnosis should be able to access the book, George Jelinek's book. This information, this philosophy is just a great way to live.
If you have a heart attack or you're diagnosed with diabetes, the first thing that your healthcare professional has to tell you is about the rule of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's like accepted wisdom.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly believe the next 5, maybe 10 years at most, that it's going to be exactly the same in MS. It's a lifestyle disease, same as any other.
Yeah. I don't get envious in a kind of palpable, dysfunctional way. I get envious of people like you who found out about it so soon. It feels to me, with the knowledge I have now, that I could have lived slightly differently. It's not about taking ownership and responsibility for getting MS, but I recognise that if I stopped working right up to deadlines and got my work in earlier, if I didn't party so hard, if I didn't do X, Y or Z, if I'd only done 4 out of 10 instead of 7 or 8 out of 10, then when I got glandular fever or whatever else I got, I would admit caesarean section, breast, bottle fed instead of breastfed.
Born in May.
Born in May.
Same as me.
All the factors, you know. And then the other one that constantly get asked was, you know, if you could turn back time and go to a time before MS, would you? And I would say hand on heart that I would only go back there if I could take the person I am now and what I know about life. If I could take him back. If not, then no thanks. No thanks.
Yeah, I wouldn't be half the clinician I am today if it wasn't for MS. I really wouldn't.
If it wasn't for MS, Johnny, you wouldn't be out here doing this. Rounding it off with the most beautiful cup of coffee you've ever...
And a big old tick bite, probably. Brilliant. There is no doubt that what you put into your body, how you interact with the environment, the way that you handle stress, exercise, these things make a huge difference to your long-term prognosis trajectory of your MS, and we need that message to be spread far and wide, because you'll never find people more motivated to change than when you've given them that life-changing, incurable diagnosis. And there's a neurologist that we're working with at the minute who will say to all of our newly diagnosed patients, you know, I can give you this medication, it'll work well, but the stuff you do at home is probably more effective. And the more people that say that, we can change MS for everybody.
MS can be a real bugger of a disease, but I think for all of us, it seems to have given us much more than it's taken away. We would never have met Jenny and Johnny if it wasn't for MS and for the charity Overcoming MS. It's reassuring to know Johnny's out there spreading the word, helping people realise they can live great lives even with MS. Cheers for the ride, Johnny, and I hope the cracked ribs are better soon and we can get another ride in the diary. That's a wrap. What's my left knee looking like?
A wee bit grazed, but nothing like this.
I love mountain biking. I think we've definitely earned the beers, Johnny.
Oh my god, Andy, that was...
Did you see your life flashing before your eyes?
Yeah, and it was really boring.